Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into something pretty unique, installing LibreOffice. But get this, the instructions are all in Spanish.
Ay, caramba.
My thoughts, exactly. We've got instructions for versions 2019, 2021, and even a 2024 version, which is weird because, last I checked, that doesn't officially exist yet.
Interesting. That is strange.
It's definitely something we'll have to circle back to. But first things first, the instructions have us creating a folder.
Makes sense. Got to put those installation files somewhere.
Yeah, but it's not just any folder. We're naming it based on the LibreOffice version we're going for. Oddly specific, don't you think?
Could be for organization, especially if someone's installing multiple versions. Maybe for testing or compatibility.
That makes sense. Okay, so folder's set. Next up. And this is where it gets interesting. We're going to the Microsoft website.
To install LibreOffice. You sure about that?
Yep, you heard that right. Instead of heading to LibreOffice site, we're snagging something called the deployment tool for Microsoft Office. Talk about using their tools against them.
Sneaky. I like it. What's the plan here?
Not entirely sure yet, but the instructions imply it'll help customize the installation or maybe bypass some limitations of the usual process. We're placing this deployment tool right into that version name folder we made earlier. It feels very cloak and dagger for a supposedly simple installation.
I'm intrigued. This is definitely not how I'm used to installing software. What's the next step in this grand plan?
Well, if you thought downloading a Microsoft tool to install LibreOffice was wild, hold on tight because it's about to get even more interesting. We're right-clicking this deployment tool, but we're not just opening it, we're running it as an administrator.
Ooh, now we're getting serious.
Right, like we're about to unlock some hidden features or something.
Well, running as administrator does give the program elevated permissions to, make changes to your system. That's why you usually get those, "Are you sure you want to continue?" warnings.
It's true.
So, yeah.
Always good to be cautious.
Yeah.
So we click through those prompts, accept the terms and conditions, you know the drill, and boom, we end up with a bunch of new files in our LibreOffice folder. Looks like the deployment tool is unpacking itself, revealing its secrets.
It's probably extracting all the parts it needs to do its thing, setting the stage for the main event, kind of like prepping all the ingredients before you start cooking.
Love that analogy. Okay, so we've got our ingredients, or files, I should say, but now the instructions are sending us on another side quest. Time to download something called WinRAR. Any ideas?
WinRAR. That's a popular file compression tool. I'm guessing we'll be using it to unpack a specific file within all those we just downloaded, like opening a Russian nesting doll. But instead of a doll, it's office productivity.
Exactly. It's all about digging through layers to get to the good stuff. All right, so we've got WinRAR up and running. The instructions have us using it to open a specific folder buried within all those files we just extracted. It's like we're on a digital scavenger hunt.
And it seems those XML files we mentioned earlier might be our next clue. Remember, those are basically text files that often hold configuration settings.
Right, like a behind-the-scenes control panel for software. The instructions point them out. They're labeled with different LibreOffice version numbers.
Including 2024.
You bet. 2019, 2021, even 2024. It's like having a key ring with different keys, each one unlocking a different version.
That's a pretty cool way to think about it. So which key are we going to use?
Well, according to the instructions, we need to grab the XML file for the version we want and drag it, wait for it, into our main LibreOffice folder.
Drag and drop, that's it.
Yep. Surprisingly simple, right? But there's a twist. We're not just dropping it in, we're renaming it to configuration.xml.
I see what they're doing here. It's all about clarity. By giving it that specific name, we're basically overriding any defaults and telling the deployment tool, hey, use this one.
Like giving it a direct command. No room for misinterpretation. But hold on, we're not done with the Microsoft website just yet. The instructions say we need to head back for one last visit. Any guesses why?
It must have something to do with that line of code they wanted us to copy earlier. Remember, we were looking at how to use the deployment tool for Microsoft Office.
Oh, right. The instructions specifically said to borrow a line of code from that page. It feels so rebellious, doesn't it? Like we're hacking the system. What do you think it does?
Well, my guess is this is where the real magic happens. That line of code probably tells the Microsoft tool how to understand and use our newly renamed configuration.xml file, the one that points to LibreOffice instead of Microsoft Office.
So it's like whispering our secret LibreOffice instructions to the Microsoft deployment tool. Brilliant. Okay, so we've got our code snippet, and the instructions have us heading back to our trusty LibreOffice folder. This is where things get a bit techy. Get ready to enter the world of the command prompt. Ever use it?
I dabble. It might sound intimidating, but it's actually pretty powerful. Think of it as a direct line to your computer's brain, bypassing all the usual graphical stuff.
A direct line, huh? I like the sound of that. So we're basically pasting that line of code we copied earlier into this command prompt. What happens then?
Pasting that code will essentially activate the deployment tool, telling it where to find our custom configuration file, and crucially, to use those instructions instead of its default settings.
Okay, it's all coming together now, but we're not just hitting enter and hoping for the best, are we?
Not quite. The instructions emphasize making sure we're in the correct directory within the command prompt, making sure the tool can actually find our configuration.xml file.
Right, like making sure the instructions are on the right disk, so to speak.
Exactly. Location, 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 even in the digital world.
Okay, so we're in the right directory, we've pasted our code, time to hit enter.
The moment of truth. What can we expect to see? Will there be flashing lights and confetti? Not quite as visually exciting, I'm afraid. The command prompt will probably start showing a bunch of text as the deployment tool works its magic. Think of it as a behind-the-scenes look at the installation process.
I kind of like that. It's like watching The Matrix. Definitely not your typical point-and-click installation. So while that's running, anything we should look out for?
Well, the instructions do say that this whole process might take a while, especially depending on your computer's speed and internet connection. They even suggest grabbing a snack.
Always down for a snack break.
Yeah.
But they also mentioned something kind of strange. Remember how we talked about those XML files with the different LibreOffice versions, including 2024?
I do. You're talking about the part where they say Office 2024 might not actually be, a real thing.
Exactly. It's like they're hinting that we might be trying to install a version of LibreOffice that doesn't even exist. A phantom release.
Now that is a mystery. What happens if you try to install a version that doesn't exist? Will it work? Will it crash?
Who knows? It's a digital cliffhanger. I have to admit, this is way more exciting than I thought installing an Office suite would be.
Me too. It's like we're on a quest for knowledge and free software.
Okay, so while our command prompt is diligently working away, there's one last detail in the instructions that caught my eye. And it's a bit odd.
It involves your email address, doesn't it?
You got it. Apparently, there's a chance we might run into an error message during this whole process. And if we do, it'll ask for our email address.
Now that is strange. Most installations don't usually ask for that kind of personal information.
Right. Makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes. Data collection. Personalized support. Who knows?
It is a good reminder to always be aware of what information we share online, even when it's for something as simple as installing software.
Absolutely. But for now, let's just assume our installation goes off without a hitch, and that shiny new LibreOffice icon is waiting for us. What happens then?
Then the real fun begins. We get to explore everything LibreOffice can do. Documents, spreadsheets, presentations, all completely free.
All thanks to this incredibly roundabout and slightly baffling installation process.
Exactly. Who knew installing free Office software could be so adventurous?
Welcome back to the deep dive. We left off with our command prompt hard at work, hopefully putting the finishing touches on our unconventional LibreOffice installation. It's been a journey.
To say the least. This whole process has been a fascinating glimpse into the world of open source software and the lengths people will go to make things work their way.
I know, right? It's like a digital choose-your-own adventure, and we're making it up as we go along. But let's check in on our installation. Our command prompt has been humming along, hopefully putting all those instructions into action. Any minute now, we should be in business.
If everything went smoothly, we should be greeted by a brand new LibreOffice icon on our desktop, ready to launch and explore.
The moment of truth. I'm almost more excited about seeing if this actually worked than using LibreOffice itself.
I get it. There's a certain satisfaction that comes with successfully navigating a process like this. It's like figuring out a puzzle, but instead of a picture, we get a free Office suite.
Speaking of puzzles, let's circle back to that email prompt we talked about earlier. Remember how the instructions mentioned there's a chance we might hit a snag during installation, and if we do, it'll ask for our email address.
Yeah, that was definitely unusual. Most installations don't ask for that kind of personal information. Makes you wonder what's going on in the background.
I know. Is it for troubleshooting? Data collection? Maybe it's a secret way to recruit people to the open source movement.
Who knows? It's a mystery. But it does highlight the importance of being mindful of what we share online, even when it seems like a simple software installation.
Absolutely. Always good to be cautious. But for now, let's assume everything worked perfectly. We're staring at that fresh LibreOffice icon, ready to dive in. What's next?
Well, next, we get to explore the wonderful world of LibreOffice. We can start creating documents, spreadsheets, presentations, all the things you'd expect from a full-fledged Office suite, but with the added bonus of it being completely free and open source.
I have to admit, after this whole installation saga, it feels even more rewarding to be using LibreOffice. We put in the work, and now we get to reap the benefits.
Exactly. This whole experience has really driven home the fact that there's often more than one way to do things in the tech world. Sometimes it's worth venturing off the beaten path, even if it means deciphering instructions in another language or borrowing tools from unexpected sources.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap things up and let our listeners dive into the world of LibreOffice, armed with their newfound knowledge and maybe a little bit of inspiration to explore the road less traveled. From deciphering Spanish instructions to conquering the command prompt, it's been quite the adventure.
Until next time, keep those digital compasses handy and never be afraid to explore the fascinating world hidden beneath the surface of your software.
And remember, even if you hit a snag, there's always a solution, even if it's written in another language. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.